Many people have heard about fairies that are as cute as kittens, and they live inside the flowers and play with the reflections and glitter of the sun. These fairies, they frolic with animals, they dance in the moonlight, and they create fairy dust, with which they make magic. Maybe you have also heard about human-sized fairies, and the ones that are smaller than butterflies. But how many of us have heard about gray fairies? The ones that live in the shadows and adore the night? The gray fairies are magical as well. But they were born in the kingdom of darkness. It is better not to meet such a fairy in your life. They try to bewitch as many people as they can, and their spells are not good. These fairies, they don't create fairy dust because their spells are hidden in their songs. It's worth knowing a few things about the gray fairies. So sit back and listen. It was a hot summer's day, and the sun was beating down. From the long journey around the world, a young man walked the road home. He was tired and he was thirsty. As he stepped into the forest, he heard the murmur of water. Delighted with his luck, he immediately turned to the direction of the sound. He went few steps, but there was no stream. And then, from another direction, he heard a murmur again. And again he followed the sound. And again there was no stream. The man turned around and he could not believe his own eyes. The forest became so dense. There was no track and no clearing, no opening, nothing. The young man understood. He was lost. Well, to stay in one place was not safe, so he decided to head through the first gap he saw. But with the first step, he felt that he was sinking. The swarm became more vicious and treacherous. The man got a bit frightened, so he found the nearest tree and he sat under it and waited. But suddenly, he heard the singing. The man climbed up the tree and sat on the branch, trying to see the source of the song. Soon the singing turned into girly laughter. The man found himself circled with the flying creatures. These were fairies, but not cute ones. They were cackling and pinching him with their spiky needle-like fingers, and they were in grey color. Their heads were small, but their big yellow eyes were throwing malicious glances that promised no good. One fairy flew close, and she screeched loudly. She pulled such a mocking face that when she opened her mouth, it was full of pointy teeth. The man jumped down from the branch, hurt his leg, and curled up on the moss. The fairies, they surrounded him and started to sing the song. At that moment, the branches of the tree went down, and he drowned in the shadow of darkness. Feeling that something terrible is going to happen, he stood and he struggled as much as he could. But it is impossible to resist the spells of the grey fairies. His eyelids became heavy, His body sagged, and he collapsed, bewitched by the song. The dark fairy's song sounds like the most beautiful lullaby in the world, because people don't understand the lyrics. But these words are magical, and they invite you to dive into eternal sleep. The man would have died from starvation and cold, but luckily, it was not meant to be. He slept for a little while, and then he woke up, blinded by the rays of the sun. The man was surrounded by fairies, but these were not the ones he had seen before falling asleep. These were cute fairies, the fairies of sun. They were giggling pleasantly, and they were catching the sun rays and directing those into his eyes. And the man, he tried to cover his eyes, and he tried to turn away from those rays. But he could not escape. So finally he asked those naughty rascals to stop. And as soon as these fairies heard the man speaking, they let each other know that he had woken up, and they stopped being mischievous. The man looked around and asked the fairies, "Is it the same place where I got lost? And where are those grey fairies?" And the fairies replied, "The place is the same, and the grey fairies, they disappeared. We are the sun fairies, and we woke you up." The man was confused. Some fairies put you to sleep, others wake you up. What kind of games are these? These are not games. Everyone who gets stuck in this forest is deceived and put to sleep by the grey fairies, and we try to wake them up. If a person is good and has a pure soul, the spell of the dark fairies are scattered by our light. If a person is bad, there is nothing we can do. That person falls asleep, and when sleep turns into death, he or she is reborn and becomes a new grey fairy of darkness. So you mean that those angry grey fairies once were humans? Yes. There are not many grey fairies, so they try to attract new people as much as possible. But their spells did not work on you. That means you are a good person. I would not have thought that so many strange and mysterious things are hiding in what seems to be such an ordinary forest. You people, you think that you know everything about forests and nature. Quite often you don't know yourselves, let alone about the secrets of the world. Try to tell anyone what had happened to you here today, and they will call you a fool. And the man, he perfectly understood what they meant, so he laughed quietly in agreement. No matter what had happened here today, the young man felt good. After having a little rest, he stood up and he asked the fairies how he can find the way out of this forest. And the fairies, they flew around and they blew the fairy dust, and a beautiful path opened. Here is your way. Go home and live happily. And the young man, he walked on the path, but suddenly he stopped and asked, "And if I want to see you again, can I come to this forest and meet you?" You are really strange. The fairies don't make plans and they don't schedule meetings. You either meet them or you don't. And with that, they disappeared. As the young man walked out of the forest, the path behind him closed, overgrowing with grass and creepers. It is said that somewhere there is a village where a kind old man tells children legends about fairies and their magical world. Some people say that this is the same man who once encountered the grey fairies and the other kinds more than once. Nobody really knows what is true and what is a lie, but everyone sees that the man is almost 100 years old and still walks to the forest. And sometimes he doesn't come back for a few days, and what he does there is a mystery. Some laugh at the old man's fairy tales, but he had seen more meaningful laughter. The old man says that it is not important for everyone to believe in your strangeness. The most important thing is to tell the truth to everyone and to yourself.